Good evening, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the August meeting. It is of the Harmony CDD. Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. The first thing I'd like to ask is if everybody can check their cell phone and be sure to turn your ringers off because that is very disruptive to the meetings. Also, we do have audience comment or speaker request forms available if you'd like to speak. If you'll fill one of those out and hand it to us, that way we can call you in order. We'll start with our roll call. Dan Lee.
Here.
Dane. Joe Ellen. Here. And Carol Castle. And Teresa Kramer is also present. We start off with just a regular audience comment period. And let me tell you, this is distinguished from our budget public hearing. So if you have questions or comments about the budget, it would be best to ask them or speak at the budget public hearing, which will start right after this. This period is for anyone who has any comments or requests of the board to come forward, limited to 3 minutes for each speaker. And you're welcome to come forward and address the board. It's not a period for back and forth, but it's a period to make your voice heard. So do we have anybody here who would like? Yes.
Hi, my name is Mike. Just want to make the board aware.
If you'll give your full name and address.
Mike Van Houten. I live at 3322 Sagebrush in South Lake. I just want to let the board know that down by where the golf cart the golf club maintenance facility is, that roadway continues to flood during heavy rains. It flooded this past weekend and it's flooded for numerous weekends. I'm not sure if there's anything that can be done with storm drains to address that area. You get maybe 4 inches of water in that area and it slowly drains off.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Is that the Garden Road or is it the?
No, it's after. If I'm going
It's
towards
on
it-
5 Oaks?
Yes.
It's the Garden Road.
Actually, no, it's past it.
Golf
Yeah,
maintenance.
the golf maintenance area is on 5 Oaks.
Is the flooding on 5
Yes,
Oaks?
it is flooding on 5 Oaks.
Okay, that is a county road and it is a, it's probably county drainage as well. So if you can call the County Department of Roads and Bridges.
County or Roads and Bridges. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
How it flows onto the sidewalk that's part of it.
Where the problem is in the drainage system that the county
street
provides on that
drains.
road.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have any other audience comments?
Just a question, Joe Janizek, 715.
If you come up here and name and address.
Joe Janizek, 7159 Oakland Trail. I just seems to go back and forth of what's happening with what I thought he was talking about, the Garden Road, to get to the garden, to get to the RV parking, what's happened with the RV parking. I don't know where that stands anymore. I hear one meeting it's canceled, the next meeting, maybe it's on. Last meeting I went to, they're supposed to grade the road. Nothing's happened. It floods. Anyway, that's it.
Thanks. Can I address that quickly?
Yes.
So we had gotten a bid for redoing the Garden Road and it was just it was hugely expensive for what they were requiring, county was requiring. And so we put it off indefinitely. However, that road will be regraded. Once they're done with the neighborhood that's to the right of the road, the people who are working on that neighborhood doing the infrastructure have promised to regrade the road when they're done. And I don't think it pays to do it before then because it's just going to get worse before it gets better.
Any action on the RV storage area? Consider.
I'll address that. We can't have the RV storage area without doing a formal improvement of the road. In fact, the county wanted us to pave it. The gas transmission line folks said, no way you're ever going to pave it. So we were kind of at a standoff. We did come to kind
Madam Chairman, excuse me?
You guys are muted, so none of us can hear you.
This happens normally whenever your registered agent changed, and we had that changed at the last meeting. Mike Eckert with Q-Tech Rock is now our registered agent, so we're required to pass the resolution and file with the state.
Motion to approve of resolution 2022-13 registered agent.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Next item is consideration of resolution 2022-10. This one is amending the public hearing date to today's date. We had an extensive discussion about it in our last meeting, but neglected to amend that date in the resolution, so we are ratifying that tonight.
Motion to approve resolution 2022-10, amending the public hearing date.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And aye. No, any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Okay, so at this time, we're going into the public hearing portion of our meeting. This is a public hearing for the adoption of the fiscal year 2023 budget. We have copies up here. If you don't have one in your possession, we have several speakers. We've gone over the budget extensively. It's been a very difficult year this year. We have considerable costs, and we're moving forward to improve the budget. So I will at this time open the public hearing. And we will go through the requests. Okay, the first one I have is, I'm sorry, Joe, can you help me with your last name?
Janice?
Yes, sir. If you would come forward, give your name and address again for the record and provide your comments.
Joe.
And if you could spell that for them, just in case.
Okay,
this gets lost.
sorry. My penmanship was not good. Joe Janusek, Jane, C as in cat, Z as in zebra, EK. 7159 Oak Glen Trail. I guess I'm just curious. I mean, I know things break, so I know there's need more money increase, but standing here 2 years ago, you guys were talking, you, maybe not you individually, but the board was talking about the surplus, building a community center. What happened to all that money? Where did it all go? That's my first comment. They're talking about that, paying down the debt, they're talking about other items. Now you're talking about a 28% assessment. I assume it's a one-time assessment, or at least that's what it's looking like. I don't know if it's a 28% increase. In that case, I would say that's ridiculous. I'm curious to why the golf course and some of these other places don't have assessments. The town center pays a very low assessment, in my opinion, based on everybody else's footage. I would say, it's truly an assessment. I mean, it's a one-time shot, not an increase. That's going to happen year after year. Could it be spread out over a couple of years as the need for the money comes? As we know that we need the money. rather than just putting $2 million in a bank that's not gonna get any interest right now anyway. Or, and then the other thing I was thinking is you did it on 28%. If we're all one community, we're all sharing the cost, shouldn't it just be a flat fee per household? That's my comment.
That's a lot of questions, Joe, and I'd be happy to answer them. If you want to take my card, you can just be in touch with me. I mean, I know it'd be preferable to answer them here, but we'll be here all night if we answer every single question. So there's lots of good answers and I'd be happy to provide them to you.
Okay.
And anybody else? Right, this is not my CDD card, just so you know. I don't have a CDD. Thank you. You're welcome.
And to understand, each of us has an email address. We'd be more than happy to speak. I know I had a town hall out at the lakes to discuss a lot of these and issues. And it was we had answered a lot of questions. So if you want to reach out and find out about what's going on, we're more than happy to answer any of the questions.
Excuse me, but one of these questions can you ask, like, is it one term or is this always?
This will be a continuing unless the board votes later to reduce it. Now, I went through most of the sections throughout Harmony. And it varies the 28.1%. And again, that's just on the operation and maintenance. That's not on your whole assessment. That's just on one portion of it. But
Unless you've paid your debt, your bond debt.
Right.
So your CDD assessment is made up of your operations and maintenance costs, which are the everyday costs for the community, and then the debt, the bond debt, which is what everybody has to pay back. The developer passes that on to every lot owner. They're passing on the cost to put in all the infrastructure for the community. So if you haven't paid your bond debt and you're still paying it with your assessments, it's only going up 12-point-something%, right? 12.2. But if you've paid down your bond debt like I have, then my because I paid the bond debt.
Yes, it matures in, I think 9 years from now for west of the town square and 13 years from now for east of the town square.
Well, how does that work?
okay, we're getting into specific, so we can't do that and answer everybody's question. But yes, it is a permanent increase for most people. On average, I did an average and it is approximately $27 a month. And most of you are paying this through your escrow, through your mortgage. So it's an increase of $27 a month.
Average.
Approximately. Some people are lower if you live in a less impactful unit. If you live in a much larger unit, more acreage, then it's larger. And it's based on a historical establishment of our method of assessment, which are the problem.
Right. And that method is not something the board has much influence over.
All right. So next sheet I have is Mr. Fred Mead. You'd like to step up, name and address, so we can get you on record.
My name's Fred Meek. I'm at 6848 Sundrop Street over in the G neighborhood. CDD supervisors, I'm speaking to you today to address the proposed 28.1% increase in our CDD fees. I strongly oppose the fees. Pretty sure that I'm not the only one in the community as of yesterday. August 14th, my Facebook straw poll that I sent out, 267 votes, 74% of the voters say that they understand that increase is needed, but not at the proposed 28.1%. Let's be smart how we spend our money and tighten the wallet. Doggy pot bags shouldn't cost 50% more. If they do, people need to go out and get their own. It's a convenience, not a necessity to the community. I say we put a moratorium on the doggy pot bags. Save your shopping bags, go to Dollar Tree and get 100 for $1.25. Engineering is supposed to be 25% increase in an hourly rate. I wish I got a 25% raise in my hourly rate. You pay someone well to find problems, guess what? They'll find the problems. Ask me how I know. 25% is a little bit excessive, don't you guys think? Let's prioritize and take care of the urgent stuff. Not everything's urgent. Patch potholes, maybe even consider sealing the asphalt instead of replacing it. defer some maintenance until cost of goods stabilize. Right now is not the time to take care of the high ticket items. And 400% increase for management of invasive aquatic weeds in Buck Lake and ponds. I don't think anyone, maybe 3 or 4 here really cares about the invasive climbing fern that you have to go into the forest, like way into the forest to find. As far as fire ladders are concerned, we have a fire station right across the street and homeowners insurance. Do the minimum to keep us in compliance with South Florida water management. That's it. What happens to all these increased fees once they're collected? Will it all be earmarked and appropriated to the proposed line items? Will it be placed in a big pot to spend? There's a lot of single stream income families that live in our community. A lot of families are really struggling. Line 1127 from the May 26 minutes. Someone stated that. They shouldn't have to do extra to make sure that they take care of their priorities. Right now isn't the time to raise our fees just simply because of the current economic status of inflation. A lot of people have to figure out how to do more with the same or less. There's a lot of angry, stressed, and concerned residents out there due to this proposed increase. I'm one of them. There's plenty more. I'm hoping you supervisors make some wise decisions in line with what the 74% of the community would like. Hoping there's a little bit more fiscal responsibility. It's my money. Spend it wisely.
Here's a copy of the budget to answer some of your questions.
I've read the budget and I've
And
got your
here's-
card. I know how to get on.
All right, Richard Slaughter.
Yes, I agree with him also about how you're saying cutting back on something.
Could you just state your address?
Richard Slaughter, 3464 Middlebrook Place. And I don't know what number that is, AG, I don't know. But I was calling when I first moved here in 2019, the ponds and everything was cut to the water. Now it's 6-7 feet of just grass. And then we got to get all types of signage by the golf course and by the houses because the alligators got too big and they land in the grass. So we're just waiting for an accident to happen with that right there.
I can help you with that. Our landscape company was supposed to be cutting within 4 feet of the pond's edge to prevent erosion. We don't want to go all the way to the pond's edge. We have amended that in our latest landscape proposal. They're going to go within 2 feet of the pond's edge. Twice a year, they mow all the way to the edge. So that will be an improvement coming forward. One of our biggest issues is the developer, particularly on your pond and some of the ponds in the lake, put no littoral zone vegetation whatsoever in. And some of this increase is going to go to put in the proper littoral zone vegetation, which will make those ponds look more like natural ponds.
Okay, they just full of weeds.
I know.
And then you say 4 feet, because this is about,
We're going to 2 feet,
well, when are they gonna start it? Because like I said,
October 1.
that's the most thing I was having with that, because we know it's children playing out there and they all out there.
Please don't, that's a seed bank.
But can we still get signs? Because when we, 2019, we got here, they were small. These alligators 6-7 feet, now they big now, and they just lay in the grass all day. And kids out there walking around and all the time, and we're just waiting for something to happen.
So,
There's no, it's not.
we
none of
can,
those-
we can look into that. That would not be an item that the board would have, but we could put up some, we've got some in some of the other.
So what kind of signs?
Not saying
Alligators.
not fishing, just saying alligators is.
Yeah, those
Some of
little
our other
alligator
existing-
signs that say caution.
Yeah.
So,
Because
yeah.
in
we
the
can do
last
that.
3 years, they got.
We'll have our field services, pull together some of those signs.
people here who are living paycheck to paycheck. And that amount of money, while it's $35 for me, $27 for others, and however much for other people, is breaking their backs. You got to look at it, okay, we have a 400% increase on the invasive weeds. Okay, that's an assessment you guys are adding on to our yearly amount. Instead of doing just a flat fee increase over that time, why don't we do a special assessment where you give it a beginning and an end so that people know that this is not going to continue forward past this certain amount of time. And then at that point, you reassess it and go, okay, we've combated that. It's now a little bit better under control. We don't need to address it every year with this amount of money. It now needs to go down. So let's add a new special assessment, a different amount, less than what it was originally intended. Same thing with this 28.1% across the board. There are things in there, new lawyer, 25% increase to the engineer. These are things that while they might have been needed, you got to look at the environment we all are living in right now, which is not one to spend frivolously, which it seems like to a lot of these people, you guys are doing. Regardless of what you paint for us on how this picture really looks like, what we see is different. What we feel is different than what you guys do. What we ask is that you look at it from our point of view of how is this going to impact us financially, day to day, living our lives, not just how it's going to impact where we live with the weeds and from Mark Savello and how they handle our environment, but how it impacts what we do. Changing it from a one lump, here's what we have to charge you, and this isn't the way it's going to be going forward, to maybe looking at it as a temporary, possibly a special assessment, gives you a three-year window, or however you set the terms, to say, okay, we have this budget constraint. We need to meet this budget. Here's the window we need to do it in. After that, we'll look at it again. Those are the ideas I came up with, looking at our current budget and our current situation and talking to the people who live in this community, is don't just paint us all with the same brush, that we can afford anything that you guys push out there, because not many people can right now here. So, and that's what I want to say. You're welcome.
Real quick, let me interject. I saw we had some connection issues with the Zoom meeting. We are recording the entire meeting here locally. Just if I see it disconnecting, I am trying to reconnect it as quickly as possible. I do see a couple people had their were raising their hand on Zoom meeting. You'll need to have emailed a speaker request form into Angel, our district manager. I'm not sure if we've received any of those yet. You might just been notifying about the connection issues. That's fine, but if you do want to speak over the Zoom meeting, make sure you've emailed that request form in.
All right. The next form I have is Amber White. Amber?
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Amber White. I live at 3437 Middlebrook Place, right over here. I just had a couple of questions. I've lived in the community for 4 years. I'm fairly happy living in the community. My kids like it. It's close to the school. We're very involved with the high school, so on and so forth. But some questions that I have are about the due diligence process in coming up with these fees increase. Did you go out for proposal? Did you look at three or four different groups? I just pulled up the doggy bags because that's the one that's getting the most. A lot of the feedback is on the doggy bags. When I pull up the doggy bags, I don't see a 50% increase. When I look anywhere online and I shop for doggy bags, I don't see that. So then that one individually makes me wonder, did we go out for bid? Did we pull 3 or 4 different companies that might offer these items? Did we go for the lowest bid? Or did we just go, oh, we've always used that company, so we're going to just continue to use them? Just a thought. My second thing is about the alleyways. Infrastructure in our county is a problem. Everyone talks about it. We don't have enough roads. We don't have enough this. We don't have enough that. The last thing that the city or county is going to do is rip up pavement and repave it. They're going to try to reseal it and restripe it and get more life out of it. Even though it might say that it met its useful life because it's been here for 20 years, I can tell you that there's parking lots in the city and county right now that are over 20 years old that they just reseal and restripe and keep them going because of the cost of things. Have we considered that?
Alleyways belong to the CDD, not the county.
Okay, but my point to you is I'm using the county and the city as an example.
Well, the county is repaving roads. In fact, they're repaving Harmony section by section now. They did the section from 192 to Schoolhouse Road roundabout. Last year, they did the section from the roundabout between the two roundabouts on Five Oaks. They are coming in and repaving. They recognize that the way Harmony was built, we're not on the most stable soil structure. And there is cracking and we are receiving potholes. A neighbor stopped me yesterday and said, you know, we got that pothole on the alleyway and I stepped in it. And it went up to my, halfway up my shin. This is a serious issue that we have to do because if we don't pave them now and correct that cracking and repaving, what we'll have is we'll have damage to the base that's under the road. And then we'll have to rip the whole thing up and start again, which would be extremely expensive. The problem is every time we defer maintenance, it's like we're stabbing together our pool furniture with extra parts. We are really trying to be as cost effective. We have a procurement procedure that we put in place last year that depending on the cost of the item, we have to get 2 or 3 quotes and it has to come before the board. It's a requirement that we do our comparison shopping and provide that information and make it available to you all whenever you want to look at it to see what we are doing to be responsible with your money.
Okay, back to the parking lot thing, because I'm still gonna go to that one. So I understand that we might have some alleyways that might be in disarray or eroding more than others. But it appears to the consumer, to the person that lives in the community, that it's a blanket. We're gonna just do them all.
No, we're not.
So did we assess them all? Was my first thing. That my second thing is this. We as a community voted you in. We shouldn't have to come to you to ask you to be transparent and show us your bids. You should want to do that. When I look at Facebook, which I don't have, I go on my husband's because I don't want to be on there and listen to all the negativity. And I didn't want to come here today and be negative. It would seem to me that you would want to put that out there, that
It
you
is
would
out
want to be
there.
transparent.
It's
I
out
couldn't
there.
see it.
It's in our meeting agenda, which is online. It's available
I
to the
couldn't see it
public.
when I looked.
Okay, I'll be glad to show you after the meeting. If you'll hang around, I'll show you how to navigate the site. We are more transparent now than the CDD board ever has been, because instead of just a very short agenda package, we require that every item have extensive backup and information with the different quotes that we get. You can see them right here in the agenda package. We have verbatim minutes, so you can go through if you're interested in a specific item. You can do a word search for it and immediately find the topic you're interested in and read all the discussion that the board had so that you can be fully aware of what the discussion was that went on and what went into our decision to do a certain thing. And we do the Zoom meetings so you can stay in your own home and watch meetings. So as far as transparency, we have gone above and beyond, more than is required by any state law or local laws.
So then if we wanted to make a public records request,
Yes.
we could do that here right now,
Yeah.
or we would email
Well,
that to you.
You could send an email and it's right on the website. I believe it's publicrecords@invermark.com, or you can send an email to me listing out whatever you'd like. And yes, we will provide whatever documents that you ask for.
Because I'm listening to what you're saying, and I don't typically come to these meetings, but I'm looking around this room of all these people that are here. And I know that the bulk of these people, or I'm gonna go out on a limb and say they're here because they don't like this tax that's coming into play. So if it's that transparent, then they would have already been very clear on why our taxes are being raised, and they would be okay with it. They wouldn't be wanting to stand up here and talk about it. So that's,
out of the what we have 1,400 homes. So again,
1,100.
and we've gotten 5 or plus percent.
okay. So then my next thing would be, how is it that it would be in our bylaws or in your bylaws that we would allow a renter to be on the board when they have no skin in the game?
this is.
Okay, just a question. I'm not asking you to respond.
I'm going
I'm
to
just-
tell you right now, it is in the state statutes. The requirement is that you reside in the community. You do not have to be a property owner.
Well, it doesn't seem to me as a homeowner that that person has any skin in the game. When their lease is up, they can make decisions about our community. And when their lease is up, they can bolt out of here and move on
And-
down the road.
You can always sell your home. So I really.
And you
don't-
can cut your grass.
I don't think it's fair for
I think
you.
we're getting a little off.
Yes.
topic there,
Please.
and we need to move through the agenda and the package.
Are you on a budget? We're taking comments on budget.
Right, so I oppose the budget. I
Thank
oppose the
you.
increase.
I appreciate.
And
that.
if you want to be, if you're supposed to be a leader of our community, then you should be acting like a leader. Start with your.
The next one we've got. Lauren Milan.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
Well,
Can you say your name and your address?
Okay,
Laura
your name
Milan,
and
sorry.
address.
sorry, I was on the Zoom meeting, but I couldn't really hear. So,
Lauren,
7445 Wingspan. So I'm brand new to the community and I purchased here because I loved it. The comment that you just made, with all due respect, was hurtful. You just told her if you don't like it, practically sell. You can always sell.
well,
Well,
let me clarify that right there. I didn't say that. She was disrespectful to a board member who happens to be a renter. And what I said is just as well as a board member who's a renter can leave at the end of the lease. Any one of us at any time can choose to pick up a new. I was not asking her to.
it sounded like that. So
I didn't want to.
just, anyway, so moving on. So from moving here, falling in love with Harmony, coming from Orlando, was not expecting a 28% increase on a brand new home, which we just closed 3 months ago. So taking that into consideration, we're still under construction. CDD has not even gone into our community to put doggy bags, for example. I walk my dog and I can keep it for a week in my home. We don't even have trash where we live. The back of our community, the weeds are completely up top, messing our home. So you guys are demanding things. However, where are you giving as well?
Let me, your neighborhood, I presume you're in the enclaves,
Yes,
and that has not been turned over to the CDD. You're still under development.
Right.
Developer control.
right.
So we have no control over anything within your neighborhood now. What we are doing, we're working to get it turned over and we're working with the developer to ensure that the proper corrections are made prior to it being turned over to the city.
So we don't have to spend more money
Right.
to correct what they didn't do right.
I agree with that. However, we're already getting an increase without having even been turned over. Use,
But actually, your property that you sit on has been paying CDD
Right.
fees for the
Before.
entire time.
Right.
And you're already able to use the docks and the boats and the pools and everything that's available to you. So you are actually being able to use all this.
half of the item. So that's why I'm here. I get it. You guys have the answer for saying, okay, it hasn't been turned over, so we can't really do anything yet. So believe me when I say most of the people are listening from home, they just couldn't come. I said, it's fine, I'll come, I'll let you guys know what's happening. 28% is a huge increase. If it's an increase for them, they've been here for years, imagine for someone that purchased, that left Orlando for a reason to now have to $400 or $500 going up.
Now recognize that, and I don't have the exact values. But it's not, it's $400 or $500 for the whole year.
Year, yeah, but it's still budget. As
Sure.
everybody says, $30, $25, and something else.
Can I address that real quick? So first, thank you for coming here and speaking. One thing to add additional that the CDD has been doing, even ahead of the property being turned over. The property that runs behind the enclave, that's a CDD tract, and that is to connect to actually a wilderness trail that has been there from the beginning, or used to run right through your neighborhood. And right now we're kind of in limbo. We're waiting for things to be turned over. We're waiting for some landscaping and runoff issues to be fixed. But, we are, that is something that, I mean, me personally, that's been a project since, even before I was elected, of, bringing that to the board's attention. One other thing, I feel some sympathy for you. When I was building, I was in neighborhood F. And we also, after we moved in, just because of some properties have been replatted by the developer and everything, I also, had an increase shortly after moving in. I just say that I feel your pain. As is mentioned earlier, the assessments they're done by property size, and they're done at, across the entire community and going back, years and years, whether it's the developer or the residents paying that. So, again, thank you for coming and speaking.
Thank you. And the last point, because it got cut off when I was in Zoom. So when you're driving down by the flooding, that's when it got cut off. What was the outcome for that? 'Cause we couldn't.
It's county roads, so the flooding is happening in a drainage system on a county road, and so our field service will be calling the county to ask them to come and address the issue.
Mainly because I have a daughter, so I go in and pick my daughter up, and I see kids like this past week when it rained. A little girl got soaked by a car, and she was in her bike, and all she did was just stand there. So we have to put our kids in a priority in a community where we live. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Deborah Bayer.
My name is Deborah Bear, 6838 Butterfly Drive. I didn't come here tonight to speak, but unfortunately, I don't like to be lumped into, I'm here for a certain reason. I don't want the budget to increase, but that's life. Things go up. I compare it to like your house. You have a house payment, you have a house you take care of. In 20-some years, you need to improve a new air conditioner, new refrigerator, a new roof. This is the fact of life. I started coming to these meetings maybe a year ago. I have learned so much information. I have learned the process you go through to come up with this budget. This community has yelled and screamed, oh, we want this, we want that, we want the loan to be better. Well, guess what? We chose one of the least expensive landscaping company because we wanted to keep the budget down. If people would take the time to look at the minutes, come to the meetings, I think I've contacted every one of you when I've had questions. You're new, I'll get to you. And I have challenged you. There are things in this budget I may not agree with, but that's life. We're not going to agree with everything. And I commend each of you for taking the challenge to run for a position. Because these people who sat on Facebook, we're going to take your job. Your job was available, 2 positions. Nobody wanted them. So thank you and thank you. If you want a beautiful community, you have to pay for the infrastructure. You have to keep the infrastructure up and running. That is what you call your CDD. Your O&M is your operating management budget that keeps your infrastructure running. It's that simple. Go to the Harmony CDD board. The information is all there, explains everything to you. So for intelligent people, and I assume you're all intelligent, to stand up here and say, I don't know what's going on. Were you transparent? Well, I say to you, are you blind? Have you not listened? Because the information is there, and it ticks me off that some of you want to say, we're all here because we're here to take you down. I'm not here for that. I'm here to learn and continue, support you where I can, disagree where I want to disagree, but respect you at the same time. My last note, we all have been renters at one time in our life. Let's stop bashing renters.
Thank you, Deborah.
All right.
One thing.
Do you have a?
I have.
Yes,
No longer there.
I'll give you 3 minutes.
It's not related to the budget.
Oh, it's not.
I'm sorry.
It's not the whole budget.
No, not when the budget. You can come back next meeting. Okay, is there anyone else that has sent anything in on Zoom or requesting on Zoom to speak on the budget public hearing?
Not that I'm aware of, but I do see our engineer who's on the call.
Okay. Welcome, David.
I'm very sorry to fill out a paper, but if I could say something.
If you can, your name and address for the record, and then if you will fill out the form afterwards.
Richard Conway, 7454 Oak Park Road, South Lakes of Harmony. I addressed the board approximately 3-4 months ago. My memory isn't super great.
I wanted to make a point that South Lakes and East Lakes was advertised in Where to Retire, a wonderful magazine where we could save money. We could live in retirement, and not pay Massachusetts sales taxes, not pay Massachusetts income taxes, and live in harmony. Since I bought from Cal Atlantic, my HOA fees for my home have essentially doubled from $250 to $475 every quarter. My HOA fees for the Lakes of Harmony Clubhouse have gone from $222 to $247 per quarter. Now, that may not seem like much, but it's doubled in 4 years. All I'm trying to say is, as a retiree who has no income other than Social Security and my savings, I'm gonna make you laugh, I hope. As a child, we used to play pig pile, where everybody jumped on and yelled pig pile. Right now, I feel like you're playing pig pile, and it's starting to hurt. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Your phone, oh.
It's just getting warm. All right, hearing no further comment, we will close the public hearing for the adoption of the fiscal year 2023 budget. And move on to consideration of resolution 2022-11 to adopt the budget as presented.
Motion to approve resolution 2022-11, adopting the budget.
I know Brenda had wanted to present something. Do we need a second now for discussion, or is that?
No, it was there if needed.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I just had her prepared in case we need.
okay, okay. I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on? I have a question. Yes, ma'am.
I'm intrigued by this thing about the dog bags. Do we have more dog parks now? Do we need more bags, or did the price of the
More
individual-
residents, more neighborhoods.
So did the price of the doggy bags themselves go up 50%, or did we just need?
Not totally. Let me explain, because I did extensive research on, I know so much about the dog.
Oh, okay.
So what we've got is during the pandemic, a lot more of our residents got dogs. We also brought on over the last 7 years, we've had no increases. We brought on a lot of new neighborhoods. We now have 83, and the enclaves will be getting some soon. 83 doggy stations out there. That's a lot of doggy stations, and we refill those every Tuesday and Saturday. So it's not just the cost of the bags, but it's the cost of the maintenance of that and everything. So we are using a lot more doggy bags, and the cost is gone, so it's more. We are struggling to always keep this cost down. We investigate, we found a provider on Amazon.com, correct me if I'm wrong, that has them a little cheaper, and we're hoping that they will maintain their supply, but we can't guarantee it. And the problem is, if we don't put it on our budget now and we run short, we can't run short. We end up with problems legally if we can't pay for the services. And I don't think anybody out there, doggy owner or not, wants us to get rid of our doggy potty stations. Because if we do, those of you that don't own dogs are gonna have so much dog waste in your yard, you're not gonna. So right now, unless people want us to get rid of that service, and an overwhelming number of people want us to get rid of that service, we're gonna continue.
Okay.
I had a question. When was the last time that we raised fees?
Over a decade ago.
Okay, so I just did a little bit of math, and in the last 12 years, inflation is been cumulative 35%. So how much are we raising?
28.1.
Feels like we're in alignment, or maybe behind.
Well, yeah, another way to look at this, yeah, this could have been, yeah, we hear it, this is, yes, it's a sizable increase to hit it all at once. If we had been over the past, if we'd been raising it like 1.5% a year, that's an increase. And I mean, I'm not saying we should be increasing for the sake of just increasing, but had we been doing that, it would have kept up with inflation. We would not be in the situation where we now have, between drainage issues, the weeds, whatever else, have this, shortfall that we need to make a big jump for. It could have been a more gradual transition. I agree with what you're saying.
The other thing we've got too is aging infrastructure.
That hasn't been addressed.
Yes, we've had maintenance that's been deferred. And we're paying for it now. Because the repairs are becoming more and more costly in order to keep up with the standard that the Harmony residents expect.
So this would be a lot less painful if it than incremental increases. It just feels kind of like a gut punch right now.
Right.
Because it's all at once.
Right. Well, a previous board wanted to try to maintain the status quo, keep everybody happy, and I've been pushing for a reserve study for years and years so that we could have a really clear picture of what we needed to set aside to refurbish all of this infrastructure that we have. Our engineer at the time was not, he would provide us with something, but it wasn't complete and it wasn't really, it wasn't his. He explained, that we should hire somebody. And now that we have a new board, we've hired somebody. And so we've, plus the reserve study that first came to us, the draft showed certain prices, and we have gone back to them and said, your reserve study needs to reflect prices now. So that's even gone up substantially from the first draft to the current draft. Plus prices have been rising very significantly for things like repaving the alleyways and, all of these other, redoing the pools. And so all of these costs have been increasing, and we can't hold those costs down because we're depending on vendors to provide services for us. And they've seen cost increases too.
We did this, reserve study in the last year or so. It's not that we're just, doing this, changing these assessments and taking this money and we don't have a good plan for it. We do have a very detailed plan over the course of the next 15, 20 years. What's
20, I think it's 20 years, 30
now,
years.
now granted, we do still have the option, for example, the alleyways. The recommendation from our district engineer, the civil engineering expert, was that there were drainage issues. And the proper best fix was to, regrade when we repave that. We haven't gone completely down that road yet. We do still reserve the ability to just, it's kicking the can down the road. It's kind of a, could be a snowball effect with this reserve study that we've done that, okay, well, if we planned on this work being done in this time frame and we push it down the road, we're just going to have the same problem 4, 5, 8
Or
years
worse
from now.
problem because it's degraded further and it's
Right.
going to be more expensive and costs can go up.
Almost all of these things are only going to get harder and more of a safety issue and more of an expensive headache to fix the longer we put these things off.
They're difficult decisions and none of us want to raise it. I'm on a fixed income and not a very big one. People say, oh, well, you're a lawyer. I've been a public service lawyer all my life, which means I've got next to nothing. I got Social Security and I'm trying to get a savings. So it's hurting all of us. We don't want to do this, but we recognize what's going to happen if we don't. And none of you will be happy. So at this time, if there's no further discussion, I would call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. At this time, we'll open the public hearing for levying assessments. Many of you already spoke about the assessments, but if there's anybody who has any particular item or input about the assessment itself, any concerns about the way it's being levied, please step forward now.
Could I say something? This is Nancy Snyder. I'm on Zoom. Can you hear me okay?
Just provide us with your address, please.
Oh, 7023 Five Oaks Drive.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, so just from listening to people, I've attended most of the meetings, and I also used to be on the board many years ago. But what I'm hearing is the O&M part of our CDD is really like an HOA. I've owned several rental properties out of Harmony, and several of them in Harmony also. And I don't remember, maybe 1 or 2 years that the HOA wasn't raised. And when we're talking $30 to $50 a month, they were raised much more than that. So if we could kind of compare an HOA in other communities to what our CDD is, plus the CDD is tax deductible. So that's just some of the things I thought of to make it a little bit more easier. And yes, it has not been raised in many, many years. I've been here for 17 years and we haven't had many raises.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you for doing all your work.
Okay, any other public comments on the levying of assessments? Yes, sir. Come forward with your name and address again for the record.
Laura Milan, 7445 Wingspan. Just a quick comment. So I work for talent acquisition for a big corporation. And this is just an overall statement. I understand a 28% increase is needed. That's not how much the average American is getting. If you look around, people are leaving their jobs and a rotation. And I see it every day. People are not making as much. So you increasing it now that much, it's gonna hurt those people that aren't working and those that are barely making 3% raises a year. So
Okay, we're back on.
All right, thank you, everybody. Welcome back, Zoom folks. The next item on our agenda is acceptance of the Harmony CDD 2023 meeting schedule. The schedule that was published had us meeting on the 4th Thursday of each month, with the exception of November and December, because of holidays, those would be the 3rd Thursday. In the past, the board has met on the last Thursday of every month, except in November and December. So if we want to change that, please let us know.
Yes, we want to change it to the last Thursday of the month, except for November and December.
Right, that should be 3 meetings.
Yes.
I think it is
March, August and
March, June and August.
We'll get those switched to the last Thursday as opposed to what it states, which is what it's good for.
Now, this is the way we've done it for a long time, but then if any board member wants to do it differently or
It's good for me. Are we, is the situation with the model here with Jones, is everything still on track to continue with this location or?
Haven't been told anything different.
Okay,
so move to approve acceptance of the Harmony CDD 2023 meeting schedule with the corrections for March, June and August to the last Thursday of the month.
second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, passing unanimously. The next item on the agenda is South Lake items. These are some items with some landscaping issues. Do we have anybody here to address those?
Hi, my name is Mike Van Houten, 3322 Sagebrush. Back for South Lake community along with Barbara. First, I want to say thank you, Teresa, for coming out and speaking with the Lakes community. It was very well appreciated. Come out and address the budget and our questions. In South Lake, CDD, you're probably aware of, we've reached our numbers. We're getting ready to turn over from the developer to the homeowners. Part of that, Barbara and I have done walk downs of our communities, and in that process, we've identified key areas that are CDD properties that we would like to have addressed. So the first one is to the right of 7450 Oakmore. The grass there, the sprinkler system wasn't on for a while. I know that people have been out looking at it, so the grass had died out. Some of it has grown back because of all the rain that we've gotten, but there's still patches.
Is it irrigated now?
I haven't seen sprinklers on in a while. I know there was they were looking at the valves, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, and this is a subject of a proposal by Cervello. So Cervello, if you want. So I have some questions when that comes up. So, but this is, I agree, I took a look at it the other day. And it's quite green now, but it's all the property owners on either side are maintaining their St. Augustine well, but it is just a serious weed patch. We've been under Cervello now for the time that this ended up damaged, so we need to talk about whose responsibility.
Okay.
And the next one?
Next one, so between 3391 and 3393 Sagebrush Street. This was where Lennar, when they finished up their last home, this was one of those properties that was kind of they left it barren, and then they kind of quickly just put grass on it, but never graded it properly. So if you actually look at the lawn, it curves like this. So when it rains, the water flows towards the people's homes versus being graded inward and flowing towards the street or the retention pond in the back. So the property really needs to be looked at and graded, because otherwise the homeowners on both sides are gonna eventually get water intrusion, especially in the middle of a hurricane.
And that part is also. They put forest quality
Yeah.
on top of it. It even has construction debris mixed into it.
Yeah, and you can see even some areas where it has died out.
See, and this is, people were talking about before about accepting the enclaves. We don't want to accept the enclaves until we have issues like this addressed. Thank you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Good point.
So since this involves drainage, we'll probably, people out there are upset with the engineer, but this is where our engineer comes in. We can go out there with our tractor and move dirt around and it may make it worse. So we really need to take a close look at it to make sure it's not a problem.
And I will let you know, when Lennar, the house that my wife and I moved into, we had the same problem. When we brought up to Lennar, they literally came in, they had to scrape all the soil away. They had to regrade it down and then replant grass over, and it was not it was a time consuming process. So I just
And
want people to be aware.
Yeah, and we may bring Lennar back in and see if they will.
But this was a Lennar, this was part of under the Lennar, not Jones. Okay, and
Quick
then,
question,
yes,
is that irrigated? We know.
that one, I'm not sure, I'm sure it's CDD property, but I have not walked by there at night. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they are. I think we've done some investigation. And we're investigating further right Pete, on all these areas. It appears that there's sprinklers right at the back edges and some that even irrigate the bahia, which should not be irrigated unless it's under drought conditions. But the St. Augustine stub outs between the houses should be irrigated, so we've got to look into those irrigation systems and see what's going on and what should be adjusted, because irrigating bahia right now just creates a field of weeds.
And
Did I
then
do that right, Bill? Oh, thank you. All right, and the last item.
the last item, so this one is on Atwood, so between South Lake and East Lake. The South Lake homes that back up to the two retention ponds. I know Jones has gone in, put some dirt around or tried to address the drainage issues. But every single time it rains heavily, like it has been, there's significant ponding in everyone's backyard. And we even have pictures, Barbara took pictures as of this morning. That you can see even the water that's left over from this weekend, if you want to see.
Yeah,
So.
up close and personal.
So we're asking, I know, once again, it's money, but it's people's homes, the water's coming up to the back end of their homes. Looking at how the engineer could have those ponds recreated or have Jones recreated, because they were part of Jones.
Yeah, Jones, will let you know about this. Brett, you want to talk about Jones? Okay.
So, Brett Perez, I live in Harmony, I'm field manager. It's supposed to be a joke, guys, sorry.
Go for it.
Sure.
I'm like, he moved to Harmony?
No.
I know.
Your address for the.
So the Jones home lots, I've reached out to Jones Homes, there's Songbird and stuff. What they've done is when they grade out their lots, they're grading out into CDD property and then they finish the lot, put a fence up or put the barrier and they don't sod behind it. They originally said that they were gonna seed it. And I requested that they don't, because it's not very good for it. There's low germination rates in Bahia. So they're actually coming back in a lot of the areas behind Songbird, they're gonna be resodding it. The area in question with the ponding behind on Atwood and Songbird, that was just shared with them yesterday as well. And they've sent it to their construction supervisor or their VP of construction to get that area corrected. I haven't gotten a response back, but I'll stay diligent on them. The picture, the proposal on the package today is addressing the one that's in between the two homes where there's a grading issue. At first, I was told there wasn't irrigation, so there's two proposals, one's for Bahia, one's for St. Augustine. It's still up to the board on what, they can go with Bahia if they want to, but it would make sense that St. Augustine side yards. And then the last one, I think I know where we're gonna go down the road here shortly. We'll talk to Cervello, but those three, I'm aware of and we're working with. And then moving forward, any work with Jones Homes, like especially in the enclave, we're gonna be holding them pretty tight to make sure they correct any deficiencies to CBD property.
Okay. Appreciate you guys
So
looking.
we're on it.
And I just have one last one that wasn't in the email. There's a sprinkler between 3326 and 3330. Sagebrush. This is a large piece of CDD land. The sprinkler it's broken and it now has created a hole in the
So we've got a 3326 and
between 3326 and 3330 sagebrush. It's on the grass, it's on the street side between the street and the sidewalk. And you can't miss the hole that's in.
now in the future.
Oh, somebody put a flag in it.
All right, that's good.
Yep.
Thank you so much. In the future, you don't have to wait for our meetings. If you'll email the CDD maintenance at infomark.com, Vincent. Pardon?
He said it was not CDD land.
Yeah, we went back and forth on the sprinkler.
Oh, okay.
This area.
Yep.
And the section of one of the CDs, one of the
It is not the HOA segment that's in this. If you look at this segment between the homes, that is CDD land. And that's sprinkler is, okay. Okay. If it's not, then we'll go and we'll address it from an HOA standpoint, but up until now, I've been under the impression that that segment in there is all CDD property.
I saw the house.
Yep. Hmm.
And once you the evening, so the pictures for the house, I would take a little peek.
You guys have my email in the document, so if you could, I'm sorry, Sandy.
When the CDD.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't come on with the H, with the homeowners irrigation.
Yes.
Comes on with the CDD.
Yeah. That's,
Okay.
What piece of property is
So
being
we
done
will-
by the-
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Teresa, thank you for coming.
Thank you. I had a great time. All right. The next item on our agenda is contractors' reports. And that's. Thank you. Take it. He is, he's stepping up to the mic. Pete Bettenport.
Let's Cervello.
Thank you for your patience.
All brakes are fixed. The only thing, the water's not on cap right yet. But all those proposals for mainline brakes, lateral line brakes, they all got fixed today.
And let me explain that. They were on the board's agenda, but our contract says anything for 2,500 or less can be approved by our district manager. That way we don't end up with sod dying while we're waiting for a board meeting or, some irrigation issues that run up our water bills enormously. So these are all NTE, not to exceed.
Yeah.
So they will give us actual cost and our district management team will scrutinize those bills.
I also
Make
got
sure
the
we get our
pictures of the repairs.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
And for the public's awareness, our irrigation system is again 20 years old. We're having a number of breaks in it, which cause some serious problems getting things irrigated and loss of water, which runs up our water. So we are trying to stay on top of these and get them fixed. Toho's been wonderful working with us, in fact, giving us new metrics to look and identify water breaks much earlier than waiting for the bills to come out. So we're excited about that. And their new system, when it comes online, will give us almost real time look at our water usage.
No answer from Toho on that one very high bill.
That's the one we're working with Brett right now.
Yes, and they had indicated that they would forgive that, provided we show that we fixed it, so.
Oh, woohoo.
And I've gotten several other bills rebated like that also.
Wow, $24,000 bill.
Yes.
For
Was that the mainline break on the
Yeah.
other property? Yeah. One of the Toho employees, actually, I was over at the square, came and asked me who the manager was. I said, that's me, and took me over there and showed me. And by then, I mean, outside the fence, that whole ditch area, that was flooded. So I don't even know how long it was running.
So we're gonna be staying on top of that because the water bills are a very big part of our budget.
I'd like to add, on the new parcel, CDD picked up, U2.
Yes, yes, first of all, let me apologize and announce to the board, it wasn't Cervello that delayed in cutting it. It ended up in my box. I had neglected to sign it and get it back, so. May have, however. The mowing of that area is not the full area.
It's not?
It is not, so maybe I'll need to come out.
Yeah.
And show you on the areas, so we need to do that. Plus, it's the area along the front fence and around in that east entrance. We now own all that on either side of that east entrance, and we need to get it mowed and cleaned up.
I'd like to meet you over there I'm visual.
Yes, I am too, so we'll get together on that. You can email me and tell me I'm on.
I also got an email from Vincent. Very vague description. Broken sprinkler, 5 Oaks by Town Square. I don't know.
Okay,
There is a puddle that always appears over going into the swim club in front of the restaurant. That irrigation is not ours. Whatever sprinkler is broken
it's
in
the
front,
taverns.
it's the tavern's irrigation. So that's
All
where I
right,
think
so-
it's coming from.
Vincent, you know, if you can meet him out on site, if there's a vague description. The problem is when we get things from residents, which are helping us, it's wonderful if they are providing us with input. Because without it, we could have breaks that go unnoticed for ages. But sometimes they're not always real descriptive
Yeah.
about where it is, but if you guys can go back and forth, maybe you can get back in touch with the resident who spotted it and narrow it down for you. Okay, so we're on your proposals now?
Sure.
You have anything else to add before?
No,
I do, just for residents who are here and those listening, we were just talking about irrigation and water use and how that's gone up so much. So not only is water use going up because we have lots of new neighborhoods that we're irrigating now, but also costs for maintaining the irrigation has gone up because when the developer put in the irrigation systems along the roadways, he planted oak trees right, not far from the irrigation lines. Well, those oak trees are now 20+ years old and they are growing, their roots are growing into the lines and causing major breaks. The piping does not have a fantastic longevity. So all of this is now, coming home to roost in the form of needing to, and I forgot to add about the wiring that is also involved in that. So all of that wiring and all of those pipes are being broken by tree roots and need to be replaced. And those are very expensive repairs. And we're having more and more of them. And all of the streets have trees on them. So even in the new neighborhoods, even though they're not being affected, 10, 15 years down the road, we're going to have the same kind of thing.
All right, let's go down the proposals. Again, the bottom three have dropped off, but proposal 6683 and 6684 are the same location. And they are the location that was just discussed. It's the location that does not have the drainage issue. But it's for 1,200, and I was confused about this because I went out and measured the area where this St. Augustine needs to go. The hay looks okay, it's out there and it's good.
between the two houses.
Between the two houses. And the area was 36 feet by 15 feet, which comes out to be 540 square feet for St. Augustine. But your proposal has 1,200 square feet.
Which is more than twice as much.
Can you help me? with that?
We don't buy half pallets or quarter pallets. We have to buy the whole pallet.
Is the whole pallet 1,200 square feet? I thought it was 450. square feet.
400. Three pallets. 1,200.
We do 2 then?
You can do 2. I believe I measured the whole area for Bahia
Uh-huh.
and then one for St. Augustine.
Okay, well,
I'm
the other thing
confused.
I wanted to ask about this one is this area, as he mentioned, it's just been more of a recent issue of the irrigation not being on in that area. And if one of the reasons we switched irrigation over to you guys is so that you would be responsible. I know this is something you probably have to take back to Scotty. But if you guys haven't been able to keep the irrigation on in there and the sod died, would you not be responsible for replacing the sod?
If we know about a problem with the clock or with a certain valve and the sod dies, yeah. We will
But
warranty.
you're supposed to be monitoring them on a regular basis. So, you should have known about the problem, right? So what I'd
Alright,
like to
Tech.
do is kick this back to our district management and you all to work something out. And I know it's on a higher level than you.
Yeah, it's above my pay grade.
Above you. That's
6684 and 6683.
It's-
Yes,
Both of those.
so at,
Yeah,
yeah,
one's,
and I would
one's
recommend,
Bahia, one's St.
St.
Augustine.
and I would recommend, because the property owners on each side have St. Augustine in there. And again, we need to make sure that the irrigation system is fixed and running.
It's
properly
running now.
Before we do anything. I would recommend the St. Augustine, because if you put Bahia in there, it's just gonna, grow over into the yards and go.
Well, the St. Augustine also does the same. It was probably Bahia one time, when they first built the house, made the easement, it was probably Bahia.
No, when I was looking at it, I think they put St. Augustine in all those, if you look closely at it. They put St. Augustine between the houses up to the back property line, and then they started the Bahia from there on.
Before my time,
I don't know, have you been here 5 years?
3 years.
Okay, maybe it was just a tap. So, yeah. But you could look at, because there are sprigs remaining of St. Augustine running through there, so. If you all could get with them and resolve that one. Then proposal 6833 is for the right of ways on Schoolhouse. Now, these are the areas that we are turning back to the residents. And this was 9 residents. The proposal was to put sod in front of each of these different residents and kind of hop down Schoolhouse. When I went out to take a look, I didn't see significant damage. It wasn't like the whole areas have gone bad. And so the question is this really needed? It's $1,000 per house to put St. Augustine sod in front of all of those. And again, in front of each one of them, I would say over 50% of the sod that's there is still good. The sod that has been damaged or where bare ground that now is basically where the residents seem to walk out to their cars parked on the roadway. So I personally do not support this proposal. And hopefully the residents will take better care once it's their responsibility.
And their responsibility will start as of October 1st.
Yes.
And we need to let them know that.
So any questions, anyone?
Oh, I take issue with the fuel surcharge that should be taken off.
Well,
Yes,
we're not moving forward with it.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
meant, yeah.
We've discussed with Cervelo and they have, that's how the other ones came down below 2,500 and they were able to.
Yeah.
So I didn't hear, you're not tabling this, you're just taking it completely off,
Yes.
right?
At least for the time being, right? And unless something drastically
Unless someone asks
changes,
for
but
it to be put back.
Yeah.
And the other one's 70, 40, and there's other.
70-37, 70-38, and 70-40 have all been handled through movement. So we are finished with you, Pete, unless you have something else.
You guys have a good night.
thanks, Pete.
If
Thanks
you
for your
call me,
patience.
We'll get out there and get that Easter.
Thanks for
Yeah.
coming.
I just need visual for the backyard,
Will do.
but if I use the property appraisal, it doesn't really give me.
Yeah, what you need,
Yeah.
we can
Oh,
get
I
it.
was gonna tell- That other mainline break that I did over by the white fence on the youth, or part of the youth route, that was also running for a while. Because
Okay, if you'll give me the metered number, maybe I can get with Toho and see if they can get it.
it's on where the clocks are.
You'll have to send it. to me. I'll never remember.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies, for coming.
Thank you so much. All right, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have the acceptance of the May 26, 2022 workshop minutes, and we provided amendments to those and meeting minutes. of May 26, 2022. We have acceptance of the financial statements for July 2022 and the approval of number 267 invoices and check registry.
So I just had one correction to the meeting minutes where it was labeled Juniper representative voting on a board decision, and I assumed that was you, and I asked Angel to have that corrected. Other than that, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions, discussion before the board?
Oh, I wasn't here for this, so
Okay.
I take it I shouldn't have voted.
You're certainly allowed to vote.
Oh.
And generally, we encourage people to vote. There are some council out there that say that you can abstain. I don't agree with that opinion, but again, you all have different rules than I have in my other district, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
defer to the people who've been here a while to say how you handle that.
You'd still be able to review these if you see any glaring errors.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay, I did read it, so,
Okay. Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Staff reports, district engineers, David Hamster still with us.
Yes, he is.
Wonderful. You're up.
Well, since I presented plenty of projects about a week and a half ago, uncharacteristically, I don't have a lot to say today, so.
I have a question for you, David. When can we expect the summary report on the estates? That gives us an idea of what work needs to be done to correct the issues.
We are trying to solicit realistic bids for the slip line and repairs on the street. I'm just trying to get more realistic numbers to present to you during the September board meeting.
Okay, great. So we expect September to see something. And even if you don't have all the numbers, if you could give us just a summary of everything that needs to be done.
Yes, we will have a map showing all the areas that have to be repaired or replaced with our estimate and hopefully complemented with some real numbers in the streets.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any of the other supervisors have a question? Mr. Hamster?
Not at this time.
All right. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
I have you wait that long for that little bit, but hang in there with us.
Okay.
Next item up on the agenda is district council's report. Since you're new to the board, I don't think there was a written report, but in the future, we will have any items that he has to address in the agenda package. So is there anything you need to report to the board? I know you've provided us with a new supervisors package to inform the new supervisors of a number of different things.
Sure. Yeah, I had a couple items that I just wanted to talk to the board about. I stated at the last meeting that I would have a conversation with each of the board members at no charge to kind of introduce myself as well as get up to speed on what issues that individual board members have concerns about. I've spoken to 3 board members. I think I'll work with the other couple here hopefully within the next week. So that's underway. I also reached out to your former counsel and requested any public records. That's what your duty is as an attorney, is your attorney's file is your file. However, when you represent a public body, you have a duty to turn over all public records, electronic and paper. I've made that request. I've also suggested that a conference call between he and I to get up to speed on any pending issues so that we don't miss a beat there. And I'm waiting to hear back from him, but that was just sent out today. I also have prepared the AAA contract for the basketball resurfacing and provided that to your manager, and your manager is working on getting that executed at this time. And then we've also are in the process of preparing your landscape maintenance contract and working with the chair in terms of some language changes that we'll look at there that's worked for us in a couple other communities in terms of dealing with missed time. When people miss mows or miss services, how does the district get either credit financially or through additional services for dealing with that? So we're going to be pretty proactive on that, include that in the contract. And so I anticipate you'll see that at your next meeting. And then we have the fee agreements that are a little bit later on down there. But I do have one thing I want to talk to the board about in terms of some, perhaps cost savings or allocation of your resources in the way that I think might be the best for the district, but we can talk about that then. So we've kind of hit the ground running, feel good about it. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has. And I guess, do you want to incur the expense of me preparing a written report for each agenda? I'm happy to do that.
If there's expensive items that would need that, if it's just regular mundane,
Well, like what I just did there, you wouldn't want that.
Yeah, you don't need that whole thing.
Okay, but if there's an action item, then certainly I would include a memorandum explaining what we're doing, why, and what the recommended action is of the board.
That's correct, unless anybody else has anything that they particularly want to see included in the written agenda package.
Not at this time. I assume your invoice will show what you've been working on, and that can give us a good idea. And any resident who wants to look at those invoices, a good idea of what you have been working on, what you've been spending time on. And then when we get that, we can request that to be added to the next agenda if we want to.
Rock's bills are lined out.
Marvelous. And we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to the alternative fee agreements in terms of how the level of communication I want to have with the board and the check-ins. So we can make sure that it's a fair relationship for everybody. I mean, if we have a flat fee, I'm going to show you exactly who worked on a matter, how much time it would have took, and what it would have been if we'd have billed it hourly. And that'll be, detailed out and provided to the board. So you can see, hey, we're getting value or we're not. And so I can see, hey, we're doing something wrong here. And so that's how it has to be for it to work. To me, a flat fee it's a simplicity and a convenience, but it's not intended to be a windfall for either party.
Thank you.
And we agree with that.
Yes. Looking forward.
Oh,
Yep.
sorry. One other item. There was a bill that was passed through the legislature dealing with noticing of public meetings. I don't know if you guys have talked about that at meetings before. Okay, so there's always been this fight between the legislature and the local governments and the newspapers. In terms of newspapers want to keep everything published in print advertisement. The local governments want to go online, and the legislature is pulled in between them. And so each year incrementally, we're able to get the legislature to do a little bit more to get into the period that we're in now. Last session, they did pass a bill that said that if a county creates a website or a city creates a website, the other local governments within that county can post their meeting ads on that website if it's cheaper than going through the newspaper. Now, you have to run an ad in the newspaper saying you're going to be posting electronically, but that's one ad.
Right.
And so we'll be monitoring, because we have lots of communities and CDDs within Osceola County. Hopefully the county will get on top of that, but once they implement that, assuming they do, that should save your advertising costs.
That's a wonderful news, because that's a serious tax.
And that goes into effect January 1. But again, it only matters if they do the website.
Yeah. Nothing against the Osceola news, but
Yeah, but
more accessible.
right. Wonderful. Okay. Anything
And
else?
are we going to go over the fee arrangements in this meeting or?
Yeah.
Okay,
But yes, we will. This meeting.
okay, I see under 7, yeah.
Field managers report.
All right, so a couple things in front of the board. You have, before we get into the field report, I wanted to just touch on basketball court color scheme. I can spin that around, the resurfacing. Okay, there are other color options, but we talked to some of the basketball players and they mentioned blue and green. They mentioned orange, but Teresa said no to that.
Well, but the blue and orange is
So again, this is,
Gold.
this is what was shared with AAA, along with the contract for their execution. I have not received that back yet, but as soon as I do, we'll get it over for full execution. The field report, going to the field report.
Let's stop it.
Yep,
Does
stop there.
anybody, do any of the supervisors have any changes or objections? We did reach out to the basketball community in Harmony, and they did say a dark green and a dark blue. And when this was put before them, they said, oh, we like that. So.
All green, it's gonna look like a tennis court. I mean, this looks like a nice balance.
So,
Yeah, and it's dark, which is what they're looking for.
yes.
Right.
The reflective white is horrible to try and play basketball.
Yeah, obviously the white striping will still be there, so they
Yes.
can identify, boundaries.
Right.
But yeah, so that, once we get that signed contract, they were shared this, and I'll let them know that the board is fine with the colors. Then we'll move forward with that, and we did give them till December 15th, once they execute the contract, so it's 4 months. I think that's reasonable. I've never resurfaced a basketball court, so I would assume that's plenty of time. If they come back with any change in language, we'll make sure we communicate it accordingly. The field reports in front of you, Vincent did a nice job, including, plethora of field related items and Cervelo related items. I will update the board that unfortunately we did receive Brad's resignation. So we no longer have a CPO for pond spraying or mitigation spraying. He's since moved on to the landscape world. So we are actively looking. We're working closely with Bill and the Harmony Life magazine. I just sent him over a revised job description for the 2 positions we're looking for. Those should be posted on the community forum. You mentioned that the magazine comes out of press mid-September. That sounds right.
Yes.
And that those ads should be in there as well. He did not mention a charge, which
I understand.
Which is very nice.
was great. Yeah, we're grateful for that. But we are, again, we're continuing to look. The good news is you're in the middle of the AWC mitigation work going on right now, which they've done a phenomenal job with. So we have enough time, I think, to find something or options to bring to the board.
Yeah, and the bigger concern on that is having AWM there and doing the work right now is great, because this would be a real problem. But we do still have a Coven grass issue. We're having more and more patches of it show up within our landscaping and our open field areas, which we mow. And it, as soon as it hits and becomes noticeable, we do need to get on treatment. So we will need a quick backup unless AWM would do something in the interim. But we do need that coverage if it's going to be any period of time, because that's critical. That stuff gets out of control.
Yeah, unfortunately, nobody on staff right now has that license, so we'll have to discuss that and figure out a way.
Bless you. Oh my goodness.
That's fires, so that's why I paused. So we'll work, figure that out. I mean, I've held the license in the past. Unfortunately, I don't have one anymore. I was on the golf course side of things, so if I have to go retest and take it, that's fine. But the downside or the good thing is it's not anything special. It's just glyphosate that you're applying on Coven grass. So, but fortunately, none of our employees have the ability to do such. So, we can even maybe talk to Cervelo about spraying some Roundup in those areas if we mark them off.
We just need to stay on top.
Yep. Any questions on the field report?
Any questions from board members? I have a question or two. Issue number 9, it stated that the pergola there needs to be painted and things, but that structure has some severe rot.
Yep.
And that definitely needs to be fixed. That's on page 209 of your agenda.
Yeah, and Vincent's working with Chris to get that corrected.
Okay, because that's a critical health and safety issue. In fact, it's even worse than that. Rot does not take a break.
Yeah.
Okay, they're working on the utility gate in the dog park, You fixed it already. Okay.
Oh, speaking of which, the small dog park, off of, Brackenfern, Primrose Willow, gates need to be adjusted again, please. Okay, thank you. And, the lights on the side are not working in the morning, the solar lights.
I changed the line last week, that was working, but I will check again.
Okay. Because the ones in the front are fine. Just the two on the side.
Issue 38, I noticed from our billings that the irrigation's been down since July 16th.
Yeah.
Right,
Spoke
for our water bill, lousy for our grass.
Well, I spoke with Pete about that. So he informed me tonight that the Claybrook valves and on Caprior are on, obviously on CDD property, so he's able to manually turn on zones by hand. That's what he's been doing. I did still ask for a proposal for a water truck just in case, or putting spigots there so we can attach hose. Yet to receive them yet, but I told him, I said, still be a good idea, because they can also put in the interim nodes, the battery operated hockey pucks on those valves to run them. And I said, again, that's a proposal I need. It's not great to tell me now when we're past that point. So, looking for a little bit more proactivity out of them is what I basically thought about.
Okay. Issue 45, the east entrance, we just spoke about that. There were several proposals that they said, we point out work that needed to be done. They said they submitted a proposal, but I went back and looked, and most of those proposals never made it to the board. And I'm sorry I let Pete go, but if you can pass this on to Scotty. Scotty promised us renderings.
And I requested those as well.
Right, and
And I
if you
haven't
would do
received
them
them.
for these, the swim club. Landscape issues and the actually carpool landscape issues and things like that. We really need to see that so we can get moving on some of these.
Replacements.
Yes.
Okay.
The trimming of the palms. I don't know how many of you all, I would encourage the supervisors to go down to the swim club and look at how the palms are trimmed. They were. And then they didn't take the loose boots off. Now, I understand it's not in our contract to remove the boots, but where they're just hanging on there by a thread and an issue for safety, I would imagine, being our landscaper, that they would take care of those too. So,
Yeah, it's something we could talk to Cervello about, but normally any palm trimming, unless deep rooting, regardless of how loose they are, if it's not discussed, it's not included.
okay, well then let's make sure in the new one that it's discussed. I don't want our palms stripped all the way up, and I know in the past some of them have been. But where those boots are just falling off because either the ladder's hitting them or whatever when they're trimming them, something needs to be done about that.
You said in the new one, what, the new contract,
Landscape
Yes.
contract.
which has already been agreed upon
Yeah.
price, so it's hard. You want me to go back to them and ask for an addendum?
No, if we need to include that and they're willing to come up with a price, then yeah. that
So
would
there'd be an addendum to the
a little
current agreement.
extra.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Your next item, pressure washing of the sidewalks.
Pressure washing the sidewalks. So we ran basically a cost analysis. Is that all? You have all that? Is that
Yes.
in there? Okay. So what that does is I went through David's awesome maps of district owned sidewalks versus non-district owned sidewalks and put together total linear footage, total mileage for people that want to see it either way. And on average, why I dropped the number of
Here
square
it
feet a
is, right
day.
here.
But basically what it shows you is the number of days it would take an employee or your district staff to pressure wash all district owned sidewalks. And there's 3 variants or 3 options. So when you look at the map, all district owned sidewalks means basically in some of those right of ways that the board is talking about giving back to residents, those sidewalks are still CDD owned. So that would be included in option one. It would take them pretty much a full year to get through, like one person. That's all they do, 24/7. Well,
That's
not
22
7.
miles of sign.
22 and a half miles of sidewalks. Let's get that in there.
A lot of sidewalks.
It is, the second option, and they vary in width too. So I mean, you gotta remember, you have 6, 8s, 10s, 5s, 4s. So that all changes the process as well. Option two would be to pressure wash only CD sidewalks that abut CD landscaped areas and outer roads, which means the interior roads that, again, you're talking about giving back to homeowners would fall to the homeowners to maintain in terms of pressure washing. That makes sense?
No, the interior streets, they're taking care of their own.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the interior roads would go back to the homeowners to maintain.
No, it's already with the homeowners.
Okay,
Well, that's the question.
that's the question.
That's what I talked to you about.
Right.
Because currently, that's what the question is. It's not in your HOA doc, but the residents do that. But back a while back, a board member stated that it should go to the homeowners, or the CDD should take it away from the homeowners, and there was never a motion made. So that's what we're trying to
Right.
determine.
So-
to see if the board wants to go with it.
So,
3 or 4 years ago.
yeah, that was
when I did the
Steve Ruby.
research,
So,
Trip and fall.
yes. So, so several years ago, I'm sorry, this is my mic. Several years ago, well, a number of years ago, when the developer was on the board, the developer did not want to be responsible for paying for the cost of sidewalk maintenance in terms of cleaning. And so it was said that the responsibility of cleaning belonged to the homeowner. More recently, because we've had some slip and falls, we've had some sidewalks that are black with fungus. We took it upon ourselves to do all the sidewalks. So I am interpreting what's in the agenda as to say, are we gonna do all the sidewalks or only some of the sidewalks? And my view is, we do all the sidewalks. It's a liability issue for the CDD. The CDD owns the sidewalks. We're gonna have people who maintain their sidewalk in terms of washing it, and we're gonna have people who don't. And for those residents who don't, the CDD owns the sidewalk. If there's a slip and fall, it's gonna come back on us. We've established the precedent. We are buying the equipment. If we already, I don't know. if
Yeah, we have it. This is just breaking down also too. I mean, you're talking about, if we're doing all of them, it's gonna be
Right.
one dedicated employee,
right.
and it's actually gonna be more than a year because there's not 294 working days in a year. So, just putting that into perspective for the board to understand, we have no problems breaking it down into quadrants and working through. It's just something that we wanted to
No,
make sure we
I-
got direction from you.
And
all.
I'm just presenting my opinion. Other people may have a
Sure.
different opinion.
This is where I look over to legal and say,
You agree with our interpretation of the exposure? Yeah, I mean, I've done extensive research on sidewalks and CDD's responsibility. Some homeowners association documents will put that burden on the homeowner, but that doesn't matter when somebody falls, because they're gonna sue the homeowner if they find out that that's in the association, and they're gonna sue the CDD because we're the property owner. And there's case law in Florida that says that local governments can't delegate the responsibility for sidewalks on their property. So it is this district's board's responsibility to deal with sidewalks ultimately.
And there's another cost.
yes. So I think what we probably should do is formalize this at this point, since it was never formalized previously, with a vote on which of the 3 options we want to go with. So,
So I move to approve that the CBD will, on an ongoing basis going forward, be responsible for pressure washing all CBD owned sidewalks in the district 1 time annually.
Which is what option?
Option 1.
Perfect, thank you.
Seconded.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board members?
Well, does it need to be once a year? Once every other year. I mean, I don't know.
It will vary depending on street and sun
Well,
exposure.
I was gonna
I mean,
say-
Caprior, Vincent, where was Chris pressure washing 3 months ago? They went back, the estates, down at the estates, some of those pocket parks. They hold water, there's very little airflow, and he's
Lot of
washing
shade.
twice at least this year.
Yeah.
So, put like the walking trail down around Buck Lake, the big exposed wide sidewalks.
Right.
Those probably don't need it as often.
Right, good drainage and lots of sunlight, but we have lots of sidewalks where there are trees everywhere.
Right,
So do we need to word this just
Yeah.
as needed versus
So
a
we-
rigid?
Yeah.
For
That would probably make more sense.
I amended to include the language after annually or as needed.
Yes, if we say annually, if you have someone whose sidewalk is gray, they're gonna call them and complain.
Right.
Is that good? Annually or as needed? Is that,
That makes more sense than just to
say,
power wash every sidewalk in.
Whether-
Because
Whether
some
it
might
needed or
need it
not.
twice and
But some people are still power washing.
I did for it a little bit ago. So.
What is it? Should that be as needed?
it will be
Maybe it should
annually
just
or
be
as
as
needed?
needed, but
Or needed, they need to do 10 times a year.
right,
Well, if it's needed,
we may need to do it 10 times a year. But it,
Making sure we know what we're talking about here.
well, that's my question. If it says annually or as needed. Well, the or. well,
I think staff can figure that out. I mean, if you get a report of a slippery condition, you're gonna go out.
You're gonna go out, right.
yeah, but we're just asking in terms of the wording is annually or as needed, covering
Should we
us?
just
Yes, it is.
add
Okay,
Now, currently, though, past field managers, that there was no pressure washing of the entire community, so just know that going forward, there's gonna be
Oh,
extra
no,
onus
no,
on,
there wasn't.
they didn't get through the
there
entire
was
community.
supposed
I know,
to.
but they were,
They didn't.
they were asking.
Starting from scratch.
Yeah, on top of that, you have all the
Yeah.
fences.
No,
and
no,
other
it's-
Stuff that we're working on too, so.
Yes. Any further discussion with the board members?
So this is all sidewalk.
Yes.
Owned by the
Owned by the
CDT.
CD, so they're,
What the, like.
so inside the enclave, South Lake,
All the communities behind gates, their sidewalks are owned by the HOA.
and then there's two side
Middle
streets.
And feather grass. Cord grass and the lower part of dark sky across from the school. Those are all owned by the county. We do not own any of those rights.
Wow, that's final sidewalks.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
22 points.
And
I
then
didn't
the
know.
rest of them are ours.
Of course. Thank you.
All right.
One last little update, I reached
Wait,
back.
Wait, we have to call the
I'm
question.
sorry, I
All the
forgot.
question. Hearing no further discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay.
Sorry, update on the UMAX, I emailed the gentleman, the beginning of the month, because he said August. And I got a response back that Yamaha has not provided a firm ship date yet, so. That's where we're at now with the UMAX. but just
Well,
sharing that with you.
August would be wonderful. I placed an order for a John Deere Gator back in February and it's supposed to be in August. End of August. So that would be great if we can get it in August.
So are we making it with the vehicles we have?
Right now we are, yeah, with the staff being, instead of being 5 full time, it's 4 right now. So yeah,
And you have some staggered schedules, so it's.
yeah, yeah,
Well.
correct.
Right.
Any other questions?
I do have one. There's a thing on here for signs, no jumping into the water.
Oh, yes. Sorry, Vincent didn't remind me. So a few weeks back, we got a report over the weekend that on the footbridges, there were children, kids, probably teenagers, rephrase that, not children. Basically jumping off the footbridges into the little canals right there. So,
Stormwater pump.
yes.
Boy, I wonder how they're doing.
So the thought was when we went out to inspect or to investigate the call, that by the time we got out there, they were gone. So we just thought of the proactive ways. Do we put, it doesn't have to be no jumping, but no swimming, caution alligators like was brought up earlier,
I think the alligators-
Yeah, maybe alligators.
There are some signs that have like dangerous wildlife and it has a picture of a gator and a snake. I think that's kind of what Disney uses, if I'm not mistaken. It just says dangerous wildlife versus.
I will turn to our.
Neither one you have to have in Florida, but I mean, it is helpful and educational and the pictures help.
Yeah,
I've seen that too.
and it might just help them remember, we can't fix stupid.
Right, so,
Like, we're in Florida, like.
Yeah.
Remember we had a signage issue with fishing, no fishing, we took them down.
Right,
I mean, we're in Florida, like, it takes away the ambiance. Like,
yeah, we don't wanna, that's my
like,
concern.
Yeah.
And just a reminder, we have a pretty stringent, sign restrictions or sign. You go to our PD documents, we have to meet certain criteria when we put up signs, and so we've got to be very careful with how many we put up. But the small little ones along the sides there, probably either side. So when you're getting them for the other areas we can have.
Well, that was gonna be a question for council. If we put them like the resident comment, I think he said track G, and I could have been wrong, but the one that was talking about the gators and we talked about putting signs up. If we put them in one area, do we then have to put them in all or no?
No, I mean, certainly if you've seen gators in that area and you want to put them in that area, that's fine. Again, there's no requirement in Florida law to warn of the wildlife that's natural.
Okay,
However, you can take those extra steps if you want.
so maybe we just look at the area that was discussed earlier and then around the footbridges.
Yeah, and just a low profile like we have already
Yeah.
around the other.
We'll work with fast signs. They've been very reliable and actually very cost effective for us. We get some signs and we'll send proofs over for approval prior to purchasing. We'll include Mike in that as well.
could this be something that's just small enough that installs just on the existing bridge structure already, so we're not adding new posts and more visual?
We may be able to find a plaque to put on the handrail of the post.
I don't know, the other ones are just put on a low profile,
4x4.
yeah, a 4x4 in the ground and
Looks like a golf cart.
it comes up maybe mid. chin or something.
We'll get with
My
that.
concern about putting too much on the actual structure of the footbridges is that the more holes we drill in the wood, the more wicking of water we get in, the more rot problems we get in. I just.
Okay.
Would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I'm just kind of hesitant to mess with people's view. I mean, we've.
They're-
yeah, she's
they're
talking about
real
all
low.
that.
though,
Yeah,
so
okay.
They won't affect anybody's.
Knee highs. Yeah. Okay.
I have one question. Gonna be part of my report, the Polaris. That has not been,
No, it hasn't been rectified.
but it hasn't been named anything yet.
No.
We're still working. through it.
Right. Brent was on vacation 2 weeks ago, the same time I was out for a couple of days, said he was gonna circle back up with Kissimmee Motorsports.
And
And then,
that's the gentleman from the Polaris government.
yes, Brent is from Polaris Governmental. We did find out, and I will share this with you all, that apparently that Polaris, since it was a commercial governmental, should have been serviced originally at Briggs. So this Polaris was bought in 2019. Serviced in-house is what I'll call it. I don't know if that's the proper terminology, but we'll call it that. And then it was moved over to Kissimmee Motorsports for the initial service. The information that I received from Polaris was the dealer, being Kissimmee Motorsports, should have said, hey, we don't service these, but instead didn't. And took service in. I brought up in multiple emails and phone calls, the warranty repair on the clutch that took place last year. That is something they're also working and looking into.
We're hoping to get that rebated.
Yeah, we're hoping to get that back. And then in terms of the engine, the update that I got from Brent was, he stated that Kissimmee Motorsports said there was oil coming from the muffler, but nowhere on our service reports does it state that there was oil coming from the muffler, nor was it discussed with Vincent when he picked it up. So, it's in for a service, I look at it as like you take your car in for an oil change and they find a timing belt's, cracking, they're gonna tell you, hey, your timing belt's cracking. Well, if there was salt oil coming out of the muffler, why didn't they say, hey, by the way, you have oil coming out of your muffler, we need to investigate what's going on with this in the engine? None of that was done. So Polaris, I'm gonna follow up with Brent because that was mid last week. I emailed him when I got back. He should have been getting back as well. He said he was going to be circling back with, I think his name was Elio at Kissimmee Motorsports. I don't know why that name's sticking, but he was circling back with the service manager at Kissimmee Motorsports. He has to tread lightly because he oversees the military side of Polaris. He actually is dabbling with this concern and complaint into the commercial side that isn't over his insight, but he's working closely with that gentleman. that gentleman won't respond to me, so.
I don't know that I wanted to. Yes, and again, if Brett can't do anything, you need to go up the chain from Elio to get them to tell.
From
you.
Kissimmee, yeah,
Not the local, the Polaris company itself.
oh, yeah, Elio's local at Kissimmee Motorsports.
Right.
Brent's, Polaris, so I'll circle back up with Brent and see if he's got any updates for me.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So that still may be a vehicle we may be able to
Correct.
put back into service.
Correct, and then late last week, we did receive the insurance check, for the Viking.
One, 11,000.
Right, 11,000 for the Viking. We haven't received, it's on the way though, the Kawasaki insurance check for the total of that vehicle. And that's gonna be 35.
Yeah, just over 3.
So you have that coming back in. And
With the
then,
potential to get $1,000 more for our deductible, once it all kind of plays out.
So the 11,000 should cover the UMAX that were coming.
thought that was upwards.
Over 11,000.
I think it was closer to 16, if I'm not mistaken. I could double check, and it may be 11, that was in November.
So, but that will be good.
Yeah.
To be able to swap off.
Correct.
And the repair work's been done on the swim club bathhouse. where they're going
Correct,
through the
yep.
entrance door.
Not Paul Davis, Mark Davis Construction completed the repair work there. We did receive their final invoice. Vincent's looked at it. Yeah, I was over there earlier. I don't see anything that's like, oh my gosh, what happened? It looks like it's.
Is insurance paying them directly or are they?
No, so we're gonna pay them, then collect from our insurance is gonna reimburse us and then go back to the driver's insurance to collect the remaining, I think the deductible, correct, Angel? Is that right?
So when it's all said and done, it's gonna look like you paid Mark Davis. You're gonna get that money back, so then it would be a wash, no cost to the district, but to get the job done, so we didn't
And
leave
done
any
right.
hole there and done right, we are gonna pay Mark Davis.
Correct. All makes sense. One last minor update on the ventilation fans. I've shared emails with you all. There are ventilation fans in the swim club.
I told you.
Well, so, yeah, so, got a little backstory that they've been shut off a long time ago. Why, I'm not 100% sure. But the 5 vendors we've had come out, or 6 vendors we've had come out, only 2 of them said, yeah, we'll give you a quote. The other ones are like, wow, this is so old, you need to replace the whole thing. We haven't even asked for that quote yet. We did get kind of a rough estimate today from anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 to get this ventilation system up and going. There were some pictures I shared that showed the vent fans rusted and probably pretty corroded from chlorine in the area.
Evidently, they haven't been working for 10 years.
Yeah, a while,
I guess.
Wow.
a while.
And a problem noted, there was a resident complaining that the bathhouse was extremely hot and I went in and put a monitor in there. And the women's bathhouse was in the afternoon on a sunny day, was running up to 110.
Oh, my God.
So we have, in the interim, been propping open the doors.
Correct.
To allow the air circulation. And we may want to look at some little Bahama shutters for that side of the building. But we definitely, I mean, in this code, have those ventilations. So I don't know why that past board member had refused to have them fixed. And then told our staff now that
There actually was.
there
a vent
were.
fan, wasn't there? So it went up and there it is, big ugly machine.
So, vent fans are in process, but that may be a pricing issue.
Another expense.
Alrighty.
All right.
So mine will be quick. A lot of the things I had on my list had already been addressed either by Brett, by Mike. The only things I have, we're doing a bunch of housekeeping and full audits of a bunch of different things when we get through this budget. So in September, you'll start seeing some kind of housekeeping things we want to get cleaned up. Some will pertain to rules, some just all different things. The other thing is, I'm glad Brett gave that update on the Polaris. I did get an email from Mr. Berube. He asked me to have a conversation with the board he was wanting to buy all of the failed equipment that is down currently. He listed out the prices to be delivered to him in St. Cloud. And as you know,
can't
and
do
I'm
it.
sure Mike can tell you too, we can't just offer it to one person, you have to offer it out to everyone. You also have a policy that is part of Harmony for surplus material. We can do that. Obviously, the Polaris is not part of that at this time, but there are other pieces of equipment that are not going to be fixable, and we can start putting those up for surplus according to the policy, but it cannot be offered to one individual. If he bids on it, then that's a different story, and you can go from there. So just want to make sure he asked me to have that conversation. I just want to let you know.
Now, a quick question. Our policy lays out, and there's a portion in there where it should be offered to other public entities.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to see that policy.
I need to send it to you because I'm a little unclear. I've
Yeah,
never.
I'd like to
seen
see that
written
policy.
that, So.
Because the
I'll
state,
share it.
the state policy
There's two
for disposal.
two different options under the state policy,
So we need
and
to
I didn't
sure.
recognize the one that was just presented as.
Right.
So I will send the policy to Mike, have him review it, and see if any revisions or something needs to come back before we go forward with putting anything up for surplus. And I'll make sure the board's aware. Okay. Outside of that, I don't have anything, like I said, other things you will see some stuff in September though, as far as housekeeping and some different things.
And we did have a good meeting with Infomark, to go over kind of an annual review, of where they were doing great, where we need some improvements, and, I think you're gonna see a real good team.
Yes, it was a very good meeting on both sides that were presented, and some things that we want to rectify, some things that will come back before the board, all of those things, so that you'll start seeing that kind of rolling out starting in September and moving. Oh, it's all.
No, you don't.
Oh. What else did I have?
You have a gentleman to your right.
Oh, yes, huge tax drop fee agreement. I will let Mike take over for there, from there and introduce his options.
So I was trying to come up with a couple different options for the board to consider. When we submitted our proposal, it was just, a straight hourly rate. Here's our rates proposal. Wanted to look at, are there any options that make sense from a flat fee perspective? A couple things is I think we need to talk about how you will use me in terms of, do I need to be at every meeting? I need to attend every meeting, but I think you might get more value on the meetings where there's not a lot of stuff for me to do, for me to just be on, by Zoom. Because that's some of that budget that you can use for other projects, or it's even works out better for you if I talk to each board member for a half an hour the week before the meeting to brief them, you're going to come out ahead on something like that. So what I tried to do was come up with a flat fee that would cover the months in which we attend meetings
Now,
in person.
sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, please.
I see in your proposal, it says $3,500, but I thought last month you said $2,200.
I did for the meeting attendance and the meeting preparation. This also includes preparation of contracts, preparation of resolutions, as well as the phone conferences and email interaction between board members. So when you asked me before, that was just for us to come and attend the meeting. I said between 2,000 and 2,200.
So what does this represent then?
This is in addition to that. Okay, the 3,500 would be attending the meetings, preparing for the meetings. It would also include preparing whatever resolutions that you needed. It says routine resolutions, but the only ones that are going to count in there are going to be like your special assessment when you refinance bonds, things like that. Preparation of contracts was not included in that $2,000 to $2,200.
I thought, I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm just trying to get clarity without too much back and forth since we're over our meeting time. So the 3,500 includes an in-person meeting and all the other work that isn't including litigation.
As long as it's not litigation or a special project. So if you tell me, Mike, we want you to go out and figure out every easement we have in the community, that's not gonna fall under the $3,500. But if you have a question, hey, our current landscape contract requires this, they're saying it doesn't, can you take a look at that and then get back to us? That's not a special research project that would fall within that 35.
Okay, and then, what if you don't attend a meeting in person?
Yeah, if I attend it by phone or by Zoom, I would suggest you not do any kind of a flat fee, that you just do basic hourly for that time, because I think you'll find that you'll come out ahead. And again, I think it's important too, what I'm proposing, it matters, but it's not going to be what really matters. What really matters is in 3, 4, 5 months, we sit down and I'm going to show you, this is how much time we spent. This is the flat fee you paid for these months, and show you exactly how much time that was. And then you can compare it to an hourly to be able to see, is the flat fee that we're establishing here today, does it still make sense for both parties? Because I think it has to be fair to both parties. I think that's going to be more important than the amount of the flat fee we established today, is going to be that revisiting. So, and I have some districts that have flat fees. Most of them don't. They get away from the flat fee. They just figure out how to use me a little bit better and more efficiently. But I'm happy to, look at any kind of flat fee. I could also come up with a flat fee that's more consistent with what we talked about, which was the 2,000 to 2,200, but that only included the meeting attendance. And I don't think that works as well for you all, but I'm certainly be willing to do that if that's what the board wants.
Our previous attorney was on a flat fee of 4,000.
Right.
So if we use him well, now again, we pick up that phone and call him. No chitter chatter, just get right to the issue and let him know what you. Yeah. Or better yet, it might be an email. Right.
And like for your next meeting, I would suggest that I attend, by Zoom, and let's try that out and see how that works. And I think for most meetings, I would say, 2/3 of your meetings during the year, probably Zoom attendance is going to be fine. If there's something that I need to present to you where there's going to be a lot of back and forth and that kind of thing, then I would suggest that
Those are our two options. I'm looking at it and provided. The only thing that I was concerned about with flat fee is that 10-minute window. And I don't know how strict that is, if we call you up with a quick question.
I bill by tenths of the hour. So
6 minutes.
So it's really 12 minutes. I can change it to 12 if that helps. I don't mind. But most times, and I think it's good for us to be efficient when we have conversations. Most of the time, it's going to be like, hey, can you tell me what this contract says, or do we have a contract, for this that relates to this? And questions on terms of, do we have a contract? Can I get a copy of that kind of stuff? That should go to your manager anyway. Should go to them first and then me second, if for some reason there's a question in terms of like an email I sent on that contract. So most conversations that I have with my board members are less than 10 minutes. Now I have some board members who call me 3 times a week and they're less than 10 minutes, but and that's okay, that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah. But I'm happy again with either approach. It doesn't really matter to me, because we're all going to sit down in about 3-4 months, like I said, and say, here's how it's working, where it's not.
So, there is a B here, right? A B option. So if we decide not to go with that option, do we delete that paragraph, or how do we work that?
Oh, you mean,
In terms of approving a fee agreement?
Well, there are two.
there are 2 different fee agreements. One is straight hourly and one has the flat fee on months when I attend in person. So you could approve either one, but then the agreement says at any time, either you or me can say, flat fee is not working, let's go to hourly. Or, if it's just not working at all and you guys aren't comfortable with hourly, then, you would want to find an attorney, and that's okay too. We help transition make sure that, you guys didn't drop any projects.
So I don't know, in looking over it and understanding that I would recommend that we go with a flat fee for the in-person meetings. It gives us the availability to get all those resolutions and contracts and stuff done. And then assess it in 3 or 4 months. Yeah. So that would be my input. Any other thoughts from the board?
I agree with that.
I lean towards that, especially at the beginning of this transition.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because there might be a little bit more mess there.
Makes sense.
Some more questions. Be best to assess it later.
With the flat fee. Okay. Any further discussion?
So that means, just to clarify, that that you would be attending every meeting in person.
No.
Oh.
What would happen is I would reach out to the chair before every meeting. And I would say, my suggestion is I attend by Zoom unless you feel like there's a compelling need for me to be here. And so on those months, the billing would be hourly. There'd be no flat fee when I call in by Zoom. Only when I'm here in person, because there's a significant amount of travel time, would I charge that flat fee. So
Okay.
1 month it may be hourly, and then the next month it may be a flat fee, depending on whether I was here.
I see. Okay.
I
Thank you
thought
for
that
that
was more fair
clarification.
than, because most of my other flat fees I've done, it's regardless of whether I'm there or in my office.
Okay.
And I found over time, I don't think that's as appropriate.
That wasn't clear to me.
Yeah.
So the first proposal that's in here is that anytime you attend a meeting, there's a flat fee. Anytime you don't attend a meeting, it's hourly. That's what the
That's
first
correct.
proposal says. Okay.
Any other questions? If not, all entertainment.
I move to approve that option.
I
Option one,
would-
sorry, yes.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve option 1, which includes the partial flat fee. And is located on page 249 of our agenda package. Any further discussion amongst the board members? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to work for you all. Quite a few policies and things like that I'm gonna be working with your manager on. I'm gonna be showing what I would suggest moving forward. So you'll have several of those in the next few months, but those are all routine policies under.
Under the routine and he's here in person. too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Old business informational signs, if everybody's tired, this is not something critical that, and this can be bumped again to the next meeting.
So I have a request regarding this. I assume this came from Field Services. Is that correct?
Well, this came up several months ago.
I know, but
and-
are the photos and the suggestions from
No,
Field
I-
Services? Okay, so, okay, so what I would like to see are some of these have some possible recommendations as to what to do with them and
Yeah, I
others
just
don't.
thought I'd throw it out and you guys can come up with whatever you think would be good information on those signs. The one thing that's lacking in this is and we put together a little map that shows the location of each one, so you can see, okay, you're coming in the west entrance. The first sign is the first one in the package. Should that be just state largely welcome to Harmony? And think of, is there one that should give you a message about Harmony? And if you out there in our audience have any input on these signs, I don't know, they're the old informational, the big signs that used to look beautiful and they're peeling off now and they've been abandoned by the developers. So we're looking to put them to good use. So if you guys want to take some time between now and our next meeting and look at them, maybe drive around and say, hey, this would be good there. And, you know, again, I just threw the recommendations are just thoughts that I have, nothing, it is wide open. Whatever it is. Now, what I would like is for field services to get us an idea of what changing each of those signs is going to cost.
Mhm.
That way we'll know if, you know, if we can afford this. So you would
Move
table
to,
that,
move to table the informational sign discussion to next month.
a motion to table, do I have a second? Second. I have a motion is second to table, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, hearing none, motion passes. My first time.
It's on the board.
Congratulations.
All right, supervisor's request. Anybody have further our new folks? Supervisor's request is when you want to bring something forward to be on the next agenda for us to further discuss. If it's something that's imperative that has a quick timeline, then you could talk about it now. Typically, if it needs a vote, it needs to be actually posted on the agenda so that the public is aware. So if any of our supervisors here today have anything that they would like to see on next month's agenda.
Not that I can think of.
At this point.
All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you for sticking with us through this whole meeting.
Thank you, everybody.
See ya.
Could I just say something nice?
If you must.
Yes, I'm taking off my South Lake hat and putting on my president of the garden committee hat. 2.5, 3 months ago, I discovered a huge flood on the bottom of the garden on the southwest corner of it. We called Vincent. Forgive me, Vincent, I'm not sure who you called, whether it was Brad or I heard the name Brian. It was fixed. It was fixed properly that very same day. I wish to compliment them for doing an excellent job. It is not what I am used to, and that's all I'm gonna say. I'll take off my garden hat.
You say everything's on the website, but the last minutes that are on the website is more. Nothing's been updated in a long time.
Yes.